Cool.
All right.
We are live on the air. Welcome to another episode of the Inner Circle podcast. Man, it's been a crazy week. Halloween has passed. The X is about to drop. We've had some reviews come across the table, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, I got a lot of stuff to talk about. Some things that happened recently, a few conversations that I've had with some Xbox people, and how real the I don't know how to describe it, but how real that Microsoft really don't have Xbox One X's, and I'll explain that. I'll explain in a minute why I'm kind of pissed off about this thing that's been happening with Microsoft. So let's begin the show. Jump right in. I want to thank everybody for stopping out. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate the support and greatly appreciate the shares to help new people reach the Inner Circle podcast. Let's go ahead and get the show started. Welcome to the Inner Circle podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox. I'm your host, KLRS Kal-El, with B Money 101.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back, man. It's good to be back. So, everybody is glad to be back.
And Anchorman V.
Hey, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? Let's play some Call of Duty, man. Who's ready?
And we are your Inner Circle. So, foremost, let's talk about Microsoft's launch of the Xbox One X. It's right around the corner. Everybody's excited about it. Everybody has their pre-orders ready. This thing honestly feels, the way the hype is for this, the way people are talking about it, the way people are looking forward to it, I almost feel like it's a brand new launch. I didn't get this feeling with the Pro. I didn't get this feeling with the Switch. And the Switch was the new console. That's the crazy thing about it. Like with the Switch, most people were on the fence, except for us. Like, remember when we first watched the Nintendo Switch presentation, the announcement live on air, and we were watching the videos, look at the games. We were all excited. We go to Twitter, people were trashing it. Oh, it was terrible. We're like, what are y'all talking about? Now everybody has a Switch. Everybody wants a Switch. But the hype wasn't there. It just wasn't there. But for some apparent reason, for the Xbox, the hype is everywhere. The reviews are coming in good. You got PC guys talking about they getting it. I've seen some PlayStation guys talking about they getting it. You got Xbox guys already lined up to get it. And on the rare occasion, you get some people like, oh, I'm canceling my order, or it needs more games, yada yada. But the hype is real. I watched a commercial during a basketball game, during a Knicks game. I have NBA TV and the League Pass, and Knicks were playing. Who did they play? The Suns. They were playing the Suns last night, and an Xbox Live commercial came on. Now, normally I wouldn't get that commercial in Florida, but because I got NBA League Pass, I get, obviously you get all the games, so you get a chance to watch those specific channels, which is like MSG. And I'm watching it, and boom, it comes on. And that's not the only time I've seen it. I've heard that it was in movie theaters. I've seen it during the World Series. I've seen it during football games. It's crazy. And Microsoft has put so much push and so much promotion behind this thing like it's a brand new console, and yet it's a mid-gen console. It's just amazing to turn around, because we talk so much about Microsoft marketing and how poor it's been this year, this generation. And yet, for all accounts, they've taken their entire budget and put it behind the Xbox One X.
Yeah, that definitely. They have put out a huge amount of marketing. Like, I mean, hey, they didn't market any of their games this year, so might as well put the budget on the Scorpio, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen quite a few commercials, and they've definitely taken to social media, YouTube. You kind of see it everywhere on there as well. So they're definitely doing pretty good with the marketing of the console, getting more people talking about it. So hats off to them for that.
Yeah, I don't know. At least with this end, it's like I was just joking about that a little bit before, but it's on this end they have really kind of stepped back this year. Like maybe for their marketing budget, because they didn't really have too many games coming out, and maybe they really did use the budget for all that's for the X and such. And I don't know. I've been seeing a lot more articles, especially lately, coming out about them talking about things like, oh, in the beginning they planned like they always kind of planned more that the console was going to make up for sales. That's where they're going to make the bulk of their money, and like a lot more talk about hardware than the software lately coming from official channels. And it was just kind of like, all right, just a little side build up stuff for the X.
You know, obviously a lot of people are surprised by the games after getting the enhancement in install sizes have started to come out, and everybody's been, and it's so funny to me because when I look at the people who are not interested in the Xbox One X, they to like judge the console and judge the games like, this is why you don't want to do 4. This is why I always wanted 1080p 60. But I'm like, bro, going into the next generation, what do you think games are going to be like? All of a sudden, you think that it's not going to be over 100 gigs? Like, all of a sudden, hey, we got 4K, so now we're going to drop everything to 20 gigs. You're talking about more shadows, better lighting, you know what I'm saying? Not including the resolution. Of course, you're going to get an increase. One of the reasons why, and I don't mean no disrespect to PS fans, but I'm just saying, like, keep it real for a second. There's a reason why you're not seeing these large jumps on the PS4 Pro like that. You're not seeing these PS4 Pro hit 100 gigs or whatever because they're not getting those 4K textures. This is a significant thing that I think, we've said this before, the biggest impact that the Xbox One has is those texture packs, because you're really starting to push the way games look to a whole nother level with these texture packs and how big of an impact they're having on not only the way the character models look, but the way the environments look. When I'm waiting to implement that new technique that they plan to put out, where you don't have to download the 1080p version of the game. You don't have to download all the voice that
Cal, you're
all the voiceovers.
Cal, your internet's really messed up.
You just want English, you download French. You want version of the game, just download the 4K version of the game, and that will cut the install size. And a lot of people gripe, not realizing almost 70. It's just the movie episode. So, I'm experiencing people who would just play the game. Funny, man.
Yeah, Cal, you're botting out real hard right now. Like it's really bad. Try to fix it up. But yeah, in the meantime, I get what you're saying about it though. Like, it's definitely a issue. This is something that, like, I understand the frustration about it too, because I have the same frustration when I look at install sizes. Like, what they're talking about, like Quantum Break is like 160 gigs or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
78, I think.
178. Yeah. It's like, dude, that's ridiculous. That's way too much. And I get that they're doing like the 4K like TV show and stuff on the side too. I get that, but I mean, I'm more afraid of, like, what's Halo 5 gonna be? Like 4K textures and everything. Halo 5 is like what, like 115, 20 gigs already? Like, is that going to be 200 gigs when all said and done?
Hey, that's why the Xbox, it supports 16 terabytes, man. You got to throw two 8 terabyte hard drives on that boy, man, because that's what you're gonna need.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, like, most people have already prepared for this, but still, it's just kind of like so much all of a sudden. Like, damn, it really kind of is over the top, and I don't know. I'm always a stickler when it comes to that kind of stuff. I always take a look and see, like, how much this is going to cost me. I need to see, and 160 is a deal breaker, honestly. Especially consider the fact, like, what the stock storage of the Xbox One X is like 1 terabyte. Like, that's one game is a fifth of your install size. I guess out the box, that's over the top, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I was also reading that since it has the 4K DVR in the box, that if you wanted to record anything longer than 30 seconds, that storage has to be placed onto the actual machine, and you can't have that on the external hard drive. So that's also going to take up quite a bit of space too. So it's very interesting. Some of the things that are coming out about the storage capacity and what these games are going to take up in the near future. So.
Now, remind me, did they ever make a clarification on with the 4K assets? Like, are they required for you to have the 4K assets, or can you choose not to have the 4K assets and instead just kind of be like, oh well, yeah, I don't want the 4K assets, but I just kind of want to see how this flies in the long run.
Yeah,
that's what I like to do.
I'm not 100% sure if the download is absolutely required. You know what I mean? If you're going to play it on the X or not. But that'll be pretty interesting to see.
That'd be a great option. Like, let's say, we're saying if the 4K assets are required if you have the X. Like, if you don't, let's say you don't want to, or let's say you're playing on a 1080p setup, and you still don't want to download the extra 120 gigs for Quantum Break.
They said that's the whole point. That's supposed to be the whole point of allowing people to, go ahead and install what you want, based on what's available. I think you'll be able to probably go in and break down what you like. I think initially when you get the game, you'll be able to download everything you want, and then you can go into manage game, and then go into your the manage game area and then delete what you don't want over time. So if you don't want to play single player, only multiplayer, you can get rid of single player, only play multiplayer. But it would be good, it's the same thing. I think if you have a 4K setup and you don't want the 4K resolution or the 4K setup, I think that kind of changes things a little bit, because then I think you got to remember, a lot of the 4K stuff is also enhancements. It's not just the resolution. I don't think they would separate that package. You know what I'm saying? So if you just stick with regular 1080, you might as well just stick with a regular Xbox. You know what I'm saying? Because you're just going to be playing the game at 1080. The only difference is you might get the frame rates locked in. Other than that, the game is going to be just locked 1080p, whatever the frame rates are. But you won't get any of the bonus shadows, lighting, texture packaging, distance. You won't get any of those things that is supposed to be the high quality stuff that makes the Xbox One X special. You might as well just stick with the regular Xbox One or the Xbox One S.
Well, here's another question too. Like, I asked Mikey Barr, I didn't answer as usual, but I want to know, because like they've been sending out those patches for those 360 games. Bethesda's been real onto that, and so I wanted to ask, like, okay, so they went back, like they literally got people going back to 10-year-old games and updating the game on 360 for the Xbox One X coming up, and I'm like, okay, will people on the Xbox One S be able to see some of those benefits, to like Fallout 3, where it wasn't running at 1080p?
I don't think so. I think
it's not 4K assets. They're not changing it that much. Like, they're not changing the game that much.
Yeah, but even in that instance, I think even in that instance, it really makes the Xbox One X special. Listen, stop producing the original Xboxes. The Xbox One S is the new Xbox. That's what they want to sell. That's going to be dropping in price tremendously. And initially, as much as Phil and even myself agreed that this console is basically for the hardcore gamer, which it is, and that's why the price tag is what it is. Within the year, they're going to want the X to be the main console. Like, right now, they're putting way too much of a push into the Xbox One X for it not to be the main console going forward. I honestly believe they really want to move on from the Xbox One, the original, including the S, as fast as possible. You know what I'm saying? because they're already working on the next generation Xbox. So when the PS5 comes out, they could drop that and continue to be, the king of whatever graphics power, whatever. I don't think Microsoft will try to relinquish the power aspect ever again after this generation. So I think what winds up happening is Microsoft is, I don't think they're trying to push it. I think, would you get an increase because of like what we got with like some of the OG Xbox games? Like Knights of the Old Republic looks a little bit better. Ninja Gaiden looks a little bit better. It's got the resolution bump, which is nice, and the frames tighten up. Yeah, I think you get that, but that's kind of like console based a little bit in a way. You know what I'm saying? It's not so much anything that some major developer did. Like a lot of those games Microsoft don't even own. So, some of those enhancements is just because the hardware is able to do little things here and there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I meant more like Fallout 3 is the big example, because I saw like the actual difference, and it shows like it is running like at 1080p screen resolution. It looks sharp. It looks clean. And it doesn't look as blurry as it once was. And so I mean, like, this is stuff like clearly the S could handle this clearly. Mm-hmm. And so my question is largely, will it show any benefit with some of these updates on the S? Like, just even they show the older games, especially. We're not talking like Shadow of War. We see any benefits to that? I'm more like the 360 back compat stuff.
I think they will. I think you will. I think it'll be just. I think it'll just have more emphasis on the X. That's just really it. You'll see the benefits, but like somebody said, they played Ninja Gaiden in 4K. Like a PC gamer played Ninja Gaiden in 4K on the Xbox One X and became jealous because he really wants these Xbox games, Xbox emulation on PC to play these games in 4K because he was so impressed with playing Ninja Gaiden at 4K and how smooth it was and how great it looked. A lot of people sleep on the original Xbox library. They were both great libraries. 360 more than Xbox, but Xbox has some fantastic franchises and games. Unfortunately, a lot of them not belonging to Microsoft, but they did have some really great games on there exclusively at one point in time. But yeah, man, it just goes back to this thing. I was pissed off at Microsoft because, oh man, I mean, coming to the next subject in a way, Microsoft has fumbled on the demand of the game because they weren't confident in themselves. And what I mean by that is the OG Xbox came out, they put out these day one consoles, made a big fuss about everybody picking them up because it's day one. You had day one on boxes, day one on a console. It had a different box. The games look different. You got little bonuses and perks with it. If you got it day one, it made you feel special. You even had day one engraved on the controller. And yet to this day, I'm sure somewhere in the world you can find a day one console brand new still in this packaging because it didn't sell out. It did amazingly well at launch, but it just didn't blow away the doors because they had messed up early on and really burned a lot of people who either jumped to Xbox, PS4, or just decided to wait and not get an Xbox and stuck with their 360s. So subconsciously, especially with them getting their butts kicked and probably seeing their sales decline over the last couple of months, they probably just went out on some Nintendo-ish, like, you know what, we're just going to throw a few million out there. And if that sells, then we'll be like, when it comes for the sales to come in and we want to talk about it, we can be like, hey, we did well. Demand was good. But these idiots have literally understocked themselves to the point that the demand is so high for the console, they have to sit up there and say, like, you have Amazon fumbling that they have to push reserves back. You can reserve an Xbox right now, and I want people to understand something. You can reserve an Xbox right now at Best Buy, GameStop, Amazon. You will not get that console the day it launches. And this is the biggest problem. It's not that you won't get a console. It's just that you won't get it at launch. And everybody wants a console at launch. So they completely undersupplied it. And the reason why I know this is because I spoke to Phil Spencer. I spoke to Phil one-on-one because of the whole thing about everybody doing review consoles. getting reviews, and everybody was pissed off and stuff like that. That they were giving it out to all the people who hate Xbox and trash Xbox on YouTube and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? Let me reach out to Phil. I'm a little guy, you know what I'm saying? But we've done a lot of support for them, and Phil hit me back and hooked me up. And I was about to get an Xbox One X to do a review for TICGN, but they were understocked. They didn't have enough. And to me, that's just crazy, because I'm like, this is insane. This is Microsoft. Expect not to have enough consoles for demand. It's Microsoft. And, now I'm still on the list to get an Xbox One X or whatever, but that's not the point. The point is that they didn't have it. And I just found that just very ironic, from going to having a bunch of consoles that nobody wanted to not having enough consoles for everybody who wants one. I just found that very ironic and weird at the same time. So Microsoft, man, they really got to get it together. But I did say that I did love the fact that they were selling out. A lot of people didn't believe they were selling out, but it's hard to get these damn consoles locked up.
Yeah, and I will say one thing, because everybody seems to be having a routine issue with Amazon. I'll say this much. And it's mostly Amazon for what we've seen here. Everybody who pre-ordered one, the common thread is Amazon. And Amazon has routinely been very, very bad when it comes to pre-orders with anything. Because, what was it? What was a game earlier this year where I kept seeing people on Twitter. They were like, oh, well, yeah, you'll get it a couple days later. Sorry. It's like, excuse me? like you took my pre-order 6 months ago, and just Amazon in particular is just normally really, really bad about taking people's pre-orders, even if they don't have anything promised to them. So Microsoft, we know they're having limited supply and they're doing it on purpose, but at the same time, it's Amazon is adding to the issue. That's why everyone's reporting issues and shortages and such. I think that's the big issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really had a problem with Amazon. I've pre-ordered actually a lot of consoles from Amazon and got them day one. So I haven't experienced that frustration from them. But in regards to Microsoft just shortening the console for launch, it baffles my mind. You know what I mean? Like we've known about this console for an entire year. You know what I mean? We haven't had any fanfare, for the X. This was supposed to be year of the X. And then you kind of stumble out of the gate. Like, I don't understand that whole logic behind that.
Right.
You know what I mean? The console should be ready to go. Everybody who wants one should be able to get one day one if they wanted to. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is supposed to be a celebration. And now you're going to have people going out there like, yo, I want an X, but I can't find one.
His was crazy. I pre-ordered my Xbox August 20th. The day they announced it was the day that I pre-ordered on Amazon. I was scheduled to get one on Tuesday. It was supposed to leave yesterday. And this is the thing that I don't think people understand. And that's why I said before, you can pre-order one right now. But if you go through the process of pre-ordering and getting to the checkout, it will tell you it will be delivered X amount of days later. You will not get it the day it released. It will be shipped the day that it comes out, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it on the 7th. You're going to wind up getting it either later in the week or later in the month or even next month. So I had mine locked in for pre-order. I had the Scorpio edition. Everything was set, ready to go. I plan to trade in both my Xboxes. Now, for the Xbox One S, Amazon, for the 500 gig, Amazon was giving me $134. And at GameStop had already stopped pre-orders and stuff. So I wasn't able to do anything with GameStop, which I recently heard was giving you a little bit more. And for the OG Xbox, they were giving me like $100 or something like that. So I was getting like $200, almost $250 and some change. And I said, that's great. That cuts the price in half. I'll get the Scorpio edition, whatever. But initially, when I first did my first trade with Amazon last year, which is how I got my S, if you traded in a console, they immediately gave you the credit and you had X amount of days to send it in, and you can then use that credit on whatever you wanted to buy immediately right then and there. So when I went ahead to do the trade, they changed the policy. So the policy was now they had to get the console, they had to appraise the console, and then based on what the appraisal was, you could either get the full amount or a reduced amount. And I thought that was just crazy. Not saying that it's not smart for Amazon to do that, but the fail-safe for that, if you didn't send the console, they charged you whatever they gave you. So if they gave you $134, they charged your card on file $134 or whatever. So it just became a thing where I decided that I wasn't going to do it because I'm like, they're going to charge my card to $500. I'm not trying to get hit for $539 right now like that. You know what I'm saying? Not saying I didn't have the money, but you know, I have other shit that I want to do. So I'm not trying to sit up there and pay $540 and then I have something else I got to do. And I got $234 or $250 in credit that I'm not going to use. So that was insane. So I just canceled the pre-order. And I was kind of frustrated with that because it was like, it kind of flipped the script on everything. It changed my whole dynamic and what I was going to do when I picked up the Scorpio. So that's what kind of pissed me off with Amazon. And I was scheduled to get my joint on the day it came out, which made it even worse. And you know who I blamed? My wife. I never was so upset and it was pouting like a little child after I canceled my Xbox One X. Because if I didn't buy her that TV, I would have still had my Best Buy credit. And I could have went to Best Buy and paid for the Xbox One X outright with no issues. I wouldn't have to worry about nothing. But because my son broke damn near every TV in my house, I had to use that 200-something credit that I had been saving for the Xbox One X to buy her a TV because I got tired of arguing with her over the living room TV, bro. I'm telling you, man, wives, bro, they're a man's downfall. It is out of control, man. It's ridiculous.
I think you're in a stage of depression at this moment right now. You're bartering. The real issue is you wouldn't have had this issue if the Scorpio was $400 at launch.
I'd rather have this issue than play Alien Isolation. I don't have a problem with that. I rather wait for Xbox One X than play Alien Isolation. I tell you that much. That's Alien Isolation, bro. I was watching previews of that game. Chill. That's too much for my heart.
It's not even that scary, honestly. After the first hour, it's like, okay, Alien exists. By the end of that game, I kept the alien on a short leash. I was using him to kill my enemies. I was like, oh, there's some enemies in the area. Let me throw this noisemaker and summon him and hide in this closet real quick. I'll just wait till he kills everybody and leaves, and we're good to go.
That's funny. On to our next subject. PUBG's got a release date. I think it's cool that it's coming out of December. It gives guys something to play going into the new year. Again, I can't stress this enough. This game is still coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like, it's still coming to PS4. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not all for third-party exclusives like that, but I just feel like Microsoft investing so much into it, not having full on exclusivity, it's just weird to me. It makes a great relationship, but you're giving them, like I said before, helping them produce the game. You're putting it on Azure for Xbox and PC. You're giving them the water effects from Sea of Thieves and from Rare Studios, which is proprietary. It's just little things like that that just makes me wonder benefit of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got a marketing deal and you got a time exclusivity deal with it. And that's great. If it's for like 2 years, phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? 2 years is a long freaking time. Like 6 months. That's just.
I'm telling you, man. What all they're doing right now.
Almost. Let me not use that word. I do apologize if I know something, but deal something. Microsoft really for them.
Yeah, the big issue I'm seeing, man, is they are grooming Brandon Green for the next project. They're like, okay, we want what you got next. We want to see what we're gonna support you. We're gonna make sure your console porting experience is the best it possibly can. So you make sure you look this direction first. Whenever when your next little game comes out, just throw a little something over towards Xbox. Just remember.
Yeah, to me, it just reminds me of like the whole Tomb Raider situation. You know what I mean? Like just the wording around, you know what I mean, the game launching this holiday exclusively on Xbox, and this being a console exclusive for 2017. It's all just a little bit weird to me. You know what I mean? It's especially since we don't really know the details of how long the game is going to be exclusive or when is it coming out of the game preview program. But there's still so much excitement around. I think they actually hit like 18 million players. So
19, actually,
yeah,
in 1 week.
It's a great benefit, you know what I mean, for Microsoft this holiday season. I just wish the announcement would have been like, it was ready to go either during the announcement or at least, available on Tuesday. Because I think that would have helped them a little bit as well. But I mean, December release is pretty cool. People will have the X by then. And then, you have that hype train going into the next year. So it'll be interesting to see, how console players adapt to it and where it kind of goes from there.
Yeah, sometimes PC games don't translate well to console. Like everybody doesn't jump on that PC title.
Right.
In other instances, games like Ark really translate amazingly well. Games like Conan, even though Conan has its issues, those games really blow up. I remember when what was that Dungeons and Dragons game?
Neverwinter.
Yes, Neverwinter came out, and that thing exploded with people on it as an MMO before eventually, kind of calm me down a little bit, which I don't even think it has calmed down. But, Microsoft has done well when it comes to getting exclusivity on certain items, whether it's first to console, timed, or full-on exclusives, working with certain indie games. They're doing a pretty good job. I think the Xbox One X will continue to help them do a good job of securing these titles and working with the PC platform. And if they can continue to do that, they may have something special going forward. I can't stress enough that I think Microsoft really just needs to merge the PC and Xbox space together and truly could just be a complete hybrid, like what Steam Machine was trying to be, but in a console form factor with all the power that the Xbox One has and the Xbox One X has and whatever they're going to be producing in the future. If they're able to do that probably in the next generation, they will have a great advantage going forward. Because you're talking about so many games that hit the PC platform, plus Xbox games on top of that would be humongous. And they're already getting these indie games crossing over to their platform first. So I think that's pretty cool too. Right path. They just need to stay on the right path going forward.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that doesn't need to be mentioned though, especially because they announced the Paris Games Week with the release announcement that that they had sold 17 million units, and we got an announcement like 2 days ago that they hit 19 million already. Like where they're in the snowball effect right now is ridiculous, man.
PUBG is on fire, up, man. It definitely is, without question. It is a huge, huge game, and Microsoft is lucky to have it because they need it. They need it for 2017, bro. They needed it bad.
I gotta ask you guys this: with PUBG coming to the console, do you guys think this would affect games like Call of Duty?
Hell no.
Yeah, I think the initial influx will be insane. You will see people falling out left and right from Call of Duty, but I don't know how long the staying power is going to be, because traditionally what I've seen is that when it comes to PC games and console versions of them. While the PC community is normally a little smaller than the console one, normally, it stays a lot longer, and it remains active for a much longer period. A good example being like a game like Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead 2 initially had a very big community on the Xbox 360, but then over time, The Xbox 360 crowd fell off, and it's still going strong to this day on PC. Like, they're still doing game battles. They're still doing all the work.
Call of Duty is the mind flayer, and Call of Duty fans is the Demogorgon dogs, man. If you, it's just one of those things where no matter what COD does, it's going to stick with COD. It's almost like they're brainwashed in a way. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what Call of Duty does, they're going to stick with it. On top of that, PUBG is just a different animal. You're talking about in a large environment, sort of Royal Rumble type game, survival type game. You know, it's not something where you're playing in a team. You can, don't get me wrong, you can, but the goal is to eliminate everybody and be the last one standing. As the map shrinks and gets smaller and smaller, pitting everybody closer and closer and closer. Call of Duty is just a different animal. I don't think they'll lose their fans. I think people will try out PUBG. I think people will like it, but I think anybody that's been looking for something different will hop on PUBG. Anybody that's looking to get into the shooting genre and love shooting genres but doesn't have a dedication to any one particular shooter will love it. You know what I'm saying? So I think PUBG is going to grab its own audience, but I don't think it'll stop who buy Call of Duty from buying Call of Duty or switching over to PUBG. Yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said before, like the console market though is a lot more fickle. We're a lot more heat of the moment kind of stuff. Like whatever's hot right now, we're playing, and that's it.
Right.
Right. So I want to talk about Superman for a minute.
Oh God.
Because listen, first of all, don't disrespect the Man of Steel.
Man, you're just jealous because
let's
Captain
bring it
Marvel
back
Supreme and DC had to pull that shiesty stuff on
no
the
one
side
cares
in order to
about
stop
this
down
kid.
Captain Marvel.
You're the only person that cares about this kid, Anchorman. Just like you're the only person still probably. Well, you're not playing Fallout because you took an L this summer, so
and
we're
I
not
only
gonna
got
bring
another
that
month
up.
and a half.
Anyway, long story short, Tech Podcast talked about Man game months ago. I don't know. Hey, listen, if you've been following Tick and you've been listening to most of our shows, we talked about the Superman game months ago. And I just find it weird, man, because it's like I get into arguments with people on Twitter all the time. And I tell people, listen, I know things. And and people talk to me like I'm lying, like I'm making all this stuff up. And I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, I know this stuff. Like, we be like you. We know these things. We heard these things. We spoke to these people. You know what I'm saying? Like with the whole Joe Montana thing, we knew it was a Joe Montana game. We just didn't know what platform it was coming out for, but we knew there was one in effect. And boom, there was a Joe Montana game. Unfortunately, it came out for mobile or whatever. Unfortunately, but the point is that we always get a chance to talk about these things, these rumors and these things that we hear. We try to validate it, and we be finding out all this information, and it goes ignored. I just find it funny that it just kind of goes ignored in a way, you know. And you might hear it from another podcaster that may be bigger, and everybody's hopped up on that person. But I just find it ironic that it's like, dude, we talked about this months ago, and boom, Rocksteady's here with a possible Superman game and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool, man, to see. Superman game. I had a conversation earlier with some guys about the Superman game and what direction they should go if they made Superman game. So I want to get your guys' opinions, and I'll give my opinion on what I think they should do with the Superman game and what direction it should go. You got about a minute to really kind of get it out. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but B, let's start with you. Get Superman game. How would you build it, knowing there's a lot of pressure on you to make a good Superman game because most Superman games are pretty bad?
I don't know, man. That's a super tough question, man. I think for me, I really would want to see like the Clark Kent story more than like actually playing as Superman. I think giving some actual story behind the character and not just being a super overpowered being that you are. and wrecking stuff would probably be more interesting for me. But I'm not really sure, man. I would definitely have to think about that and decide where to go with a Superman game.
Anchor?
That's a tough one, honestly, because I'm not. I'm not even sure if Rocksteady is the right one to kind of make that game because that's not their kind of purview, really. But it would need a big name like Rocksteady to get the consumer faith back. I think if you're trying to go, I think with Superman in particular is because he's OP by nature, and the issue with that one in that mentality is if you're trying to show the full power and scale of him, it would have to be something kind of like the Superman Returns game by EA, where it's not determined by his health, but like the city's health. That you're in Metropolis, and that it makes sure, oh, you gotta stay in Metropolis is safe. Honestly, I probably wouldn't go for that because I think it would be kind of campy, honestly. But I think if you try to do more of like a Superboy route, where it was more contained, maybe not doesn't have his full power set just yet, and like maybe trade kind of like Gotham or something like that, where or like Smallville, where you're seeing kind of the origins of some of these bigger villains coming into play. Like you have an early version of Metallo and Lex Luthor and all that kind of stuff. I think that could work out a little bit better, at least narratively in balancing out, being OP as hell. So,
Anchor, you're definitely on the right path. I agree with that assessment, but here's my thoughts of what I think they need to do. There has to be two halves to this game. There has to be a half where you kind of understand the what you're working with as Superman, his abilities, and how to use them in combination to fight more powerful villains later on in the game. The second half of the game is you're Superman and you're no longer saving Metropolis, but you're saving the world and you're fighting cosmic villains. But in that first half of the game, what I think they should do is it's almost like you're taking a Batman approach where you're limiting based on the gadgets that they have, and a lot of fights are based on the weapons that you have. So early on, I think if you bring in some villains that are affected based on Superman's early powers, so you start out as a young Clark Kent, Superboy, whatever, and maybe he just got his ability to run, and he could run really fast, but he can't fly. And you fight an enemy that allows you to use your speed to defeat them. And the next enemy allows you to use your speed, and you have your eye beam. Then you have your super breath. Then you have the ability to leap. Then you have the ability to fly. Before eventually getting to the point that you actually are Superman, and that whole world opens up to an open world aspect. The first half of the game has to revolve around, Smallville and Metropolis. That's the first half of the game. And it's really about training Superman. You're kind of understanding the origins of Clark, like you said, Anchor, and understanding some of these villains. But once you become Superman, you have to gain the respect of the planet. And this is where I think a dynamic that they really need to explore, and I'm probably going to go over my minute, but they really need to explore how Superman earns the respect of the people, because to them, remember, just like in the original Superman movie, he's an alien. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't get that. They haven't seen that. So he has to be able to respect people. You have to be able to protect people. And all of that should play a factor in everything. In the meantime, they should definitely have villains like Lobo. They should have, obviously, Darkseid should be a main villain. They should have Mongrel should be a main villain. They should have Brainiac. I don't want to do the Zod thing, but I mean, just for measure, Zod could be like your first enemy as you become Superman before introducing these later on villains. And that becomes a thing where maybe you don't fly into space, but you can fly really high and regain your energy and come back down to certain aspects. But there should be times where you not only teleport from Earth and leave Earth to fight these villains, but you go to their worlds. It would be in a humongous game. Is the point that I'm trying to make?
Yeah,
and I think
I'd say that's a bit ambitious there. For one game,
that would definitely be
that's a trilogy setup. But
that game has
setup,
to,
man.
The game has to be an online title. I don't see how you can make it, and because Superman is such a big and powerful character, you cannot limit him based on his ability to just a city. This is the greatest thing about Superman. It's like they always there's three things what they say about the Trinity. When you want to fight a war, you get Wonder Woman. When you want to solve a crime, you get Batman. But when you want to protect the world, when you want to save the world, you have to get Superman. That's the only person that's capable of doing that. So I feel like it's kind of limiting if you just only set him in Metropolis and fighting villains in Metropolis. You have to go beyond that. You know what I'm saying? That's just my thoughts on it.
I think you gotta split it up a little bit more than that, because it's way too many villains. In by having one game, you're gonna be treating every other villain like crap. Because
that's true.
You're not giving each person enough time to shine. I think if you split it up into more of like a Trinity kind of deal, where you started off with like, okay, it's limited to just Metropolis right now. Like you're doing a little bit of Smallville, moving into Metropolis, maybe a little detour into Gotham on occasion, but staying relatively small scale. And you're dealing with more like low level type of villains. You're talking about maybe Parasite. You're talking about Metallo, like Lex Luthor being the main villain. And at the end of that game, then you kind of move on to more of the world-ending threats, where we start moving into maybe a little bit of more Mongol, kind of being on maybe Mongol being like the big bad for that one. Maybe a little bit of Zod, maybe even Brainiac. But focusing more on like, okay, this is Earth level villain, like this is Earth level Crisis, and then the last game being maybe have a mixture of Doomsday as well as I can't remember what his name is. Damn, Darkseid.
Darkseid.
Yeah. And like you leave it with those two guys as being the final guys. And I can see like in the final game maybe having like the mid-level boss be Doomsday, and maybe have him die and come back, and to have that big push, and to be like a big like character development moment. But yeah, you definitely have to split it up into multiple games. It's just too ambitious for one game.
That works. The first game would definitely should, and I think it'd be really cool if they allow you to transfer progress too, per game to game, where if you completed certain things and you were this character in the first game and you grow up in the second game and you're a young Superman, then a lot of the things that you accomplished in the first game, story-wise, villains that you've defeated and stuff like that, cross over into this game. And, you're a more mature character and you're dealing with different problems and more world problems before going to a more mature Superman in the final game and actually fighting these big characters like a Darkseid and a Lobo and things like that. I think that'd be pretty cool, man.
And I think there are two big things you'd have to balance that would be a real pain in the butt. First one is flight. Because you don't want Flight to feel hokey, but so like I think in the first game you don't even allow him to fly in the first game. You don't even entertain the thought of him flying, and you basically keep it like to big jumps, like speed running, just things of that nature. You keep it relatively grounded, and like by the end of the game you can fly. But because the big issue you're gonna run into is you're gonna fly, and if you go too slow. One, you're going to have better control, but at the same time, if you go too slow, you don't feel like you're Superman. You feel like you're driving a tractor trailer. You're going real slow. Like you don't want it to feel like that. But if you go too fast, you can't control it, and it doesn't flow just right. So I think that's the biggest issue you're going to run into. It might have to be something like you can't fly like supersonic speeds until you're above a certain altitude, because they explain something like a sonic boom would shatter the city. You don't want to do that. So, So maybe justify it that way. But that's the biggest issue you're going to run into. I'd rather focus on doing the core mechanics right in the first one, and then kind of add extra in other games, and then maybe do the interplanetary travel and all that kind of crazy stuff in the third game. So
cool. Any final thoughts, B?
Nah, man, all you guys' ideas sound amazing. It's definitely something I would want to check out. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what they do with Superman, because I think he's definitely the hardest character to develop a game for, just because he is so overpowered. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on it and see where they take it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. All right, so before we get into our last two topics, listen, let me not even say that. Let's just jump into it. Super Lucky Tale reviews have come in pretty poorly. It's a detriment to Mario Odyssey being so amazing. So many people bought Mario Odyssey, and the game was fantastic. I didn't get a chance to play it, but based on what I've read and seen, it looks amazing. And as a Nintendo fan, I'm excited about getting a Switch and playing Mario Odyssey. And I heard there's some twist in the game as well, which makes it really, really cool. And then to turn around and then play Super Lucky Tail, which I thought was great at E3, a lot of people just seem like it's not. It's too generic. It's not good enough. It's just, and it's just kind of just a platformer. I think a lot of people tend to forget this thing used to be on VR, and they're just adding a little bit more to it to make it more viable as a platformer. But it didn't review well for a lot of people. I'm trying to figure out, did Microsoft make the wrong decision, or does it not matter? Was it the smart choice to secure Super Lucky Tail as an exclusive title?
I haven't really taken a look at the read any reviews. I looked at like the numbers and stuff like that, and most of the reviews seem to be like average or mediocre. I'm a platformer guy, you know what I mean? So I was looking forward to picking up Super Lucky Tail, just to kind of see how good the game was, how well they did the platforming. But it's like you said, I think it's come to the detriment of Mario. I mean, Mario was just so amazing, and then coming off of that, you get these two goofy platformers with Super Lucky's Tail, and then Bubsy Returns or whatever the hell it's called. Is coming back, and like both of those games pretty much got like the same score. I think the one thing that people probably want to see more from Super Lucky's Tail is probably just slightly harder platforming. I think a lot of people said that the game was like too easy, but I think the characters were memorable as far as all the characters that they introduced. But I think for it to be a platformer, people weren't satisfied with some of the platform mechanics in the game. So,
right. Hank?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same position, but my difference was I was never going to pick up Super Lucky Tail anyway, so I had no real anticipation of it, and I mean, it's just a bad situation anyway. Anytime you got to launch against a Mario game. Like, it's just the stars were not there for them that day, so it was not going to work out. It wasn't going to be pretty. But at the same time, I mean, like, I think maybe people were going to be a little too harsh because they did just come off of Super Mario, which honestly, I'm playing Mario Odyssey, and it's just kind of like, it's okay. It's not the best. It's not great, but it's okay. Yeah, it's a good Mario game.
Super Lucky Tail was fun. It's not a bad game. I just think a lot of people, with Nintendo kind of being the messiah of platformers, I think a lot of people expected more from Super Lucky Tail. And really, it's just something that I probably give to my 4-year-old son. Simple. He plays it. He gets it. He dies a few times. He understands he can't do that, and he moves on. There's nothing complicated about it. Meanwhile, Mario seems to get more complicated the older he gets with his titles. Also a platformer that no one asks for. And not saying that that's a bad thing, but people want what Microsoft have at Rare. Why they're not producing these games, I don't know. You're sitting on two big platformers in Conker and Banjo, and no one has seen these games. And don't get me wrong, I think working on Sea of Thieves is amazing, and it's a smart thing to do. But at the same time, sometimes people put their eggs in the wrong basket. And I think Playful is cool, because Playful's also, initially I thought Playful would be a great studio Microsoft would pick up, but I saw that they also produce a VR game for PlayStation. What's that game be? The one with a chick, she's teleporting with the mech. Oh my God. It's a PSVR title.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
She looked like an Overwatch character. I can't remember the name of that game. I don't remember. I didn't really care for it. Yeah, it's the thing where they show the damn thing like 3 times at the Paris Games event. She's like hovering in the air. She reaches out one hand and she kind of teleports to something, turns on a gun. The gun shoots at.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forget the game. Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, that's made by the same developer. Playful is the same guys that's making Super Lucky Tail. So you know, I don't know, man. They said they're going to be making more games for Xbox. How far that goes, I don't know. But I really hope Microsoft does a better job at securing exclusives and a better job at finding the right people, getting things prepped for the future because they really need it. Now,
yeah, I think
this
as
is
far as
go
like,
ahead, B.
I think as far as them like choosing this game and choosing to work with Playful, I think it was a smart decision in the long run. I just think that this probably wasn't the game that they needed right now. You know what I mean? Especially when you're launching like this amazing console, and then you know what I mean, you come with this subpar game. I think if this was something that would have came out like later or beginning of next year, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But I think the fact that it's coming, you know, pretty close to the launch of your new console, and the game is kind of mediocre, people are just going to overlook it. They don't really care.
Right. So, this is going to segue into something that I think a lot of people are I want to talk about. This is something a little bit private. You know, I have conversations with people at Microsoft, you know, pretty often, or every once in a blue moon, you know, based on if I get a response to a question or they're not busy or something like that. So first of all, we're shooting for Jeff Keighley to come on the show next month. We're going to talk about the VGAs. We're going to talk about his thoughts on Xbox and why the hell did he leak the Xbox One X at E3. So we're going to get him on. We'll talk about that. We'll discuss that, which, by the way, we believe obviously Microsoft set that up. We had a whole conversation about this in a party. Like, Microsoft had to set that up. I know a lot of people killed Jeff Keighley for that, bro, but they literally sent the man an Xbox after, you know what I'm saying, after everything he did that summer where he leaked the price. And I think it was smart for them to do that. And I can see Aaron Greenberg hitting up Jeff like, hey, I need you to drop this on Twitter.
Take one for the team, 45
man. Minutes. Yeah, take one for the team about 45 minutes before the show starts so it can soften the blow of this price. Know the price before the show started and then expect it to be 500. It could have been damaging in a way. But the fact that it was dropped a little bit early, most people were expecting it to be 500 or close to 500. And when it was 500, it was like, oh, well, Jeff Keighley said it was 500. So whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it was we'll see. We'll find out. We'll find out if he got some inside scoop. Maybe he won't tell us, but we'll find out. So shout out to Jeff Keighley for returning on the show. Good guy. I know a lot of people don't like him, but again, the guy supports Tick, man. I can't not respect anybody that doesn't respect us, regardless if he doesn't like Xbox. He loves TIC, and I appreciate that support. On another hand, I spoke with Shannon Loftus and was working on a thing to get Shannon Loftus on the show. I reached out to her, and you know, it's crazy because her last couple of interviews, a lot of people didn't like the questions that she put out. That whole situation, we won't be having Shannon Loftus on the show, unfortunately. Now, I said I was going to reach out to her last year, but it seems that, you know, she's a bit rattled at the situation because of the simple fact that, you know, a lot of people came at her about her comments on 2017 for Xbox, whether it was a poor year, whether it was a good year, you know, her thoughts on some of the things that she stated when it came to, you know, she felt like they did a decent job with, you know, Halo and Voodoo Vince and Super Lucky Tail Force or whatever. We know the situation. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that's vocal out there. You got a lot of PlayStation guys that hate Xbox. You got Xbox fans that are fanatic but are upset with what Microsoft has done this year, and they're very vocal. And in that one instance, those few little bit of interviews that she put out put her in a situation where, you know, it got to her a bit. And I don't know if that's like I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say the wrong thing and put myself in a pickle. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you're going to get haters. You're going to have haters regardless. And obviously, if you work in this type of business, you got to have tough skin. But she's still human. And I get that. You know, she's still a human being. Certain people say things to you. You're affected and stuff like that. So it's just a weird situation, man. But Yeah, we won't be having Shannon on anytime this year. Maybe not even next year. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll be able to get her back on and she can come out and do some interviews. But it's unfortunate. I think that a lot of people don't understand that Microsoft is just doing what they're supposed to be doing. Why don't people get that they're just doing their jobs?
Yeah, I mean, people take a lot of this stuff personally. Like I because they ascribe a lot of personal thing into the stuff that they like. They find meaning in the products that they own. Oddly enough, I mean that's a state of the world, unfortunately. I mean, you got people who like it's like outside of just gaming stuff too. I mean, like there are people like, oh, I drink Coke over Pepsi. I'm a Coke guy, or oh, I'm an Apple over a Samsung. I like Apple, and they let that define who they are. And when that happens, and when someone says something that they don't like about their product, they view that as a personal insult, and so they get personal, and they're gonna go after you. And I think what people don't realize is that for some people, this is a job. This isn't personal. So I think that's one of the bigger things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people just don't know when not to cross the line. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's all just a business. You know what I mean? I think as consumers, sometimes people just don't know, what lines not to cross. I don't think anything should ever be personal. I don't think you should take shots at anybody. I mean, I think constructive criticism is always something that people should be able to handle. But I think that when you take it a bit further than that, that's when, it can affect someone, you know what I mean? And we've seen this not just, in the game industry, but in other industries as well. You know what I mean? People take a lot of stuff to heart. And when you start taking those personal jabs, it really does affect them. And, you got to be mindful of that because, at the end of the day, like we're all human. You know what I mean? We all have a family that we want to go home to. We all have things that we want to accomplish in life. So, Shannon Loftus has been put in that position, and I'm sure she's pretty happy about it. And she has things that she wants to accomplish in that position and maybe move further with her career. But when you take those personal attacks and it starts to affect you to where you're at the point where you may not even want to do interviews anymore, maybe, you just have to take a step back and people have to realize that, things that you say do affect other people and it never has to be that serious.
Everybody getting on me. They like, Cal, stop playing politics. Hey, it is what it is, man. I need my connects. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to sit up here and start trashing people. You know what I'm saying? Even if I don't agree with certain aspects. Like, I didn't really care for Voodoo Vince. I didn't really care for...
You heard that. Phil, don't come on the show no more. You heard him.
We can all admit that, like, Xbox, this has been the roughest year that they've had.
It's been a rough year for Xbox.
You know what I mean? We all can admit that. You know what I mean? And we all have hopes for 2018 and their future. But we can all be real and say, yo, Microsoft, you put a lot of weight into the year of the X, and there wasn't a lot to show for it beyond that. You know what I mean? And we hope that you do better. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, also
I don't know.
Also, like I guarantee you, like March next year, they're gonna come out and they're gonna say, yeah, 2017 wasn't the year we hoped for, but 2018 is gonna be better.
Yeah, they'll admit it. Listen, at the end of the day, I think again, no business will ever cop to being bad or having failed, because then that means that you will eventually, you could possibly lose the confidence in people, and you don't want to do that. And even if we know the truth, a company has to lie. What I don't like about it, though, like, shout out to Aaron Greenberg. First of all, the one that I give Greeny is a lot of people don't like Greenberg because they say he's a fanboy. I don't think people understand who Aaron Greenberg is and his position within Microsoft. If anybody is going to be a cheerleader for Xbox, it's going to be Aaron Greenberg. Aaron Greenberg is the director of marketing for first and third party games. No matter what games hits that platform, he is marketing those games, and he has to market it in a positive way. So the fact that he does his job to the T, Why do PlayStation fans hate Aaron Greenberg so much and call him a fanboy and call him a corporate slave? He's doing his job, and he's doing his job well. If you hate him because of that, he's doing an effective job. The day Aaron Greenberg comes out and tells me, well, this game that we put out wasn't as good, is the day I think Aaron Greenberg needs to step down. With his job marketing the things that need to be marketed for Xbox. And you never want that. You want people to be all in on the products that you're trying to purchase, so that way they instill confidence in the purchases that you're picking up because they're confident in the product. Same thing with Shannon Loftus. I know a lot of people don't like what 2017 had to offer. A lot of people don't like Voodoo Vance. A lot of people didn't like Super Lucky Tail or whatever they had in the pipeline for this year. But at the same time, the lady's doing her job. She's going to give you the proper PR answers that she's supposed to give you. Nobody, especially the head of Microsoft Studios, the people that make the games for Xbox, is going to come out and admit, oh, we did a poor job or, a pretty bad job at putting out games for the Xbox. In the end, what I tried to tell her was that, because after she stated that, I felt some type of way, just as a person. And I'm not trying to compromise myself as someone in the media or be biased in any type of way. We are an Xbox podcast, but I'm a gamer first, and I always try to respect the gaming side more than I respect my own personal feelings towards Xbox. And in that aspect, I kind of try to be human and try to make her understand that, people are going to have their opinions regardless because everybody is a fanatic for something. And at the end of the day, you can't let that rattle you. You can't let that keep you down. You just have to understand that a lot of Xbox fans have confidence in Microsoft, the Xbox One X, the Xbox One S, and all the services that they've been putting together to put on this platform. And now that you have these things as a foundation, the only things that we're waiting for from you guys is the big time AAA exclusives. All we want is these big badass games. You know what I'm saying? So, and I told her that personally. I said, you guys have everything set. We just need the games, besides the big three. And I made an emphasis on that. Besides the big three. The big three is fine. Those guys will make improvements on the games to appease the fans the way they're supposed to. But when it comes to everything else, Microsoft Studios has to step up, and we need to start seeing really great production. And then I recommended that some of the games that they may need are like RPGs, some adventure titles and things like that, story narrative games or whatever, as well as some better, bigger titles. And I don't want to say games as a service. You got Sea of Thieves, but you want to be able to lock in some games that can sustain people for long term while also pushing out single player experiences and stuff like that. But make sure you get it right this time. Quantum Break was a great step, but a lot of people didn't like the movie aspect to it, and it didn't hit all the points that people wanted. So you got to make sure you get it right. And I told her, I know that's hard. It's hard to pick and choose what you want to bring in as a studio and produce, publish, or create. For 30 some odd or more million people, that is a difficult job when you're the head of Microsoft Studios. So I really tried to empathize with her situation, and she thanked me for support and stuff like that. But hopefully we'll see what happens next year. We know Microsoft got games in the works. I truly hope that they are successful going forward because they got the hardware. All they need is the big AAA titles. And everybody will shut the hell up because then the ball will be in their court. I'm not saying they're going to take over PS4 sales numbers, but at the end of the day, that doesn't even matter. Look at PlayStation now. Even PlayStation has to acknowledge that they're looking at active users now. They're looking at microtransactions and stuff like that. The stuff that Microsoft's been looking at, Sony's now looking at. Because for all the 60 million people you have, it doesn't mean everybody's playing. If you have all these amount of people and your games aren't doing 5, 10, million a piece, you're still hovering around the same numbers that Xbox is doing, 2 million, 3 million here and there, says a lot about who's actually playing games. Meanwhile, on the Xbox side, it's pretty close. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I as a piece of just as I don't know, like yeah, also keep in mind like her job, Shannon Loftus' job is hard. It's a hard thing. You making the right choice of which games to go with, because you not only you have to worry about which games to go with, but you got to be able to predict what people want 4 years from now. It takes time. It's not an easy job. The only easy portion of her job is just greenlighting Sunset Overdrive 2. That's all you got to do. Like, you got to get that ball rolling. I don't care what's got to happen. I don't care who's got to make it. It just needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it. Go ahead, B. Go ahead, B.
I was going to say, like Anchor saying, the job is definitely hard. But I think, she just has to be more critical, think more critically, maybe, get more people around her, to provide different mind share, so that they, feel comfortable about picking different games in the future. Because, like you said, there's different genres that they need to explore. Every game can't be games as a service coming up, even though they've talked about that, and Phil has expressed his feelings about that. They definitely have to appeal to a broader audience if they want to continue building the audience that they have. So I just think, sometimes you got to change your surroundings a little bit and maybe take a look at the people that are around you, because they also affect your decision making.
Yeah. Listen, again, I'm not saying that Microsoft hasn't done a poor job this year. Listen, if just think about this for 1 second, okay? Because everybody is getting riled up a little bit. If Scalebound releases and it's a good game, Legend releases, that changes the whole dynamic of this year. Like, I just think about that for 1 second. That changes a lot this year. You understand what I'm saying? State of Decay and Crackdown got pushed into 2018. If those games release, that changes 2017 dramatically. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to sit up here and make it seem like Microsoft hasn't been producing games. They have. They just had a terrible 2017 because of the simple fact that they didn't know what direction the games were going in. The games that they were producing weren't turning out the way they wanted it to. And they probably felt they were going to flop. And in that process, we lost Fable. We lost Scalebound. Both of those games were canceled. You had some smaller studios close. You had Lionhead closed down. That changed the whole dynamic of 2017. Crackdown gets pushed into 2018. State of Decay gets pushed into 2018. Sea of Thieves gets pushed into 2018. A lot of that stuff changed the dynamic of everything. So, 20 barren. You're stuck with probably Forza Motorsport 7, which reviewed extremely well. And then you had Cuphead, which did extremely well. You also have what else we have dropping soon? You got PUBG coming out at the end of the month. You had a few smaller titles come out in August, and then you had some games come out early in the year, and Voodoo Vince and Halo Wars 2. Not my cup of tea, but some people did enjoy those games. Shout out to Lord Attic, who's a Halo Wars 2 fanatic. But had a poor year, but the first 3 years, nobody complained. You know what I'm saying? Nobody complained about those first couple of years on Xbox. It was all about how Xbox had all these games and PlayStation didn't have anything. You know what I'm saying? PlayStation's holidays were weak and Xbox was killing it every holiday with big AAA exclusives. Sony was putting out, the thing for Sony was they had the hardware early on and they were putting out games year round. But Microsoft was locking up the holiday with all these big AAA exclusives and stuff like that. And I remember that vividly, because we were there from day one. So, it's just one of those things where I think a lot of people neglect the first couple of years. Look at 2017. A lot of cancellations ruined 2017. 2018 should be much, much better. You got the hardware. You got the services. You got some games coming out in 2017. You got some third-party titles dropping that you have marketing rights to, like Anthem and so on and so forth. You got some Japanese games, some Korean games come to your platform in Black Desert, Dragon Ball, Code Vein. We'll see what else they have first-party wise. Hopefully it's big titles. We know they're working on some things. A lot of people want Shannon Loftus fired. That's a lot to say for, I get it. Yeah, people are frustrated, but at the same time, somebody losing their job in real life, that's a serious, you know what I'm saying? And I get it. People spend their money, you're buying consoles and all that stuff. I'm 100% with you on that. But just from a person, I guess you could say, because we speak to these people and we meet these people and we talk to these people, we kind of understand their mindsets and what they're trying to do. it's we kind of look at it from both sides and kind of have empathy in those situations. But yeah, they keep keeping us up. Somebody got to go. I do agree with that. Somebody has to go if they continue to keep this situation up. Like if we don't start to really see some big effort put towards Xbox, you can't just rely on third party. You can't just rely on hardware. Paris Games Week with Sony showed me that Sucker Punch putting out that Ghost of Tsushima game, which is the only game that truly caught my attention. Obviously, other than Spider-Man, which looks crazy. But as far as first party is concerned, Sucker Punch, and I don't even like Sucker Punch. I don't even like Infamous, like that as a franchise. The first game was good, but everything else was trash to me. I just feel like, that game looks like it has the potential to be something great. And Sony allows their studios to do these things. While Microsoft won't do that, I don't know. But if they're not going to do that, Microsoft needs to bring in some new first-party studios. We know they got games in the works. We just don't know who's working on them. And I hope that it's not more third-party stuff. I really do. I really hope that they surprise us with some new studios or something they just not telling us about, because I just don't think this third-party getting people to build games for you thing is going to work long-term. I almost feel like Microsoft is just being cheap at this point, and they really don't need to be cheap. So we'll see what happens, man. Any final thoughts before we head out of here?
The only thing I will say is anybody who clamors for single player games, if you didn't go out there and buy Wolfenstein 2, you're not doing the game right. You are seriously depriving yourself of arguably the best single player experience this year. And that's coming from playing Horizon Zero Dawn, Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda. This is just a whole nother level, man. You don't even know. It's and I'm watching. I beat it. I beat it a couple of days ago, and I'm watching other people play, and they're like, "Oh man, this is crazy." I'm like, "You ain't seen nothing yet." And they get about halfway through the game, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was more insane." It's like, you ain't seen nothing yet. You haven't even got to that point yet. It's a beautiful game. It has a deep character development and story. It's just excellent. Gameplay's perfect. Pacing's on point. I struggled to find flaws with it. The only thing I could find is that you have a little bit of texture pop in when you go a little too crazy, when you go a little too fast. That's the only thing I've noticed. And that's not even doing the whole Bethesda fanboy stuff. I'm just being honest here. Like it will be a severe travesty if this game does not even get the nomination for Game of the Year.
Which one? Wolfenstein?
Wolfenstein 2, man. It's a.
I almost think you fanboying out. I just think you're saying that because of Bethesda.
I'm not even kidding, dude. Everybody who has played it is on point.
I gotta agree with Anchor. I played the game for maybe an hour or two, but as soon as you start the game up, out the gate, I think it stuns you, hits you right in the face. You get put in a situation where, I totally wasn't expecting. I was like, yo, this is crazy right here. And I'm
gonna have to try. I love the first game.
Yeah, the first game was amazing. Old Blood was good too, but this game is on another level, and I'm definitely gonna get back to it. But from what I'm seeing, everybody talking about the game, I know it's gonna be pretty amazing. And like I said, from just playing it to 2 hours, it was action packed from start to finish for me. So
yeah,
well, I look forward to it.
You gotta play it. It's just it's a travesty if it doesn't get the nomination. Like
my backlog is crazy. Like I put so many games on hold just waiting for the X. I got Final Fantasy 15 ready to play. I got Quantum Break ready to finish. I got Mass Effect ready to finish. I'm picking up Assassin's Creed, Shadow of War. I already have Forza 7. I'm going to pick up Wolfenstein, Star Wars Battlefront. There's a ton of games. Plus, we got the new ARC server dropping. Make sure you check out our ARC server. If you haven't got a chance to look at our forums, we have a forum, bottom.com. You can go to ticgn.com and hit our forums up, which is really popping. I want to thank everybody who signed up for it, or go to community.ticgn.com, and that is our forum. That is for the guys out there. It's a great alternative to Reset Era or go to NeoGaf. We're definitely trying to build something special over there for those of you out there who support us. Make sure you go sign up today and get those conversations popping. But if you head over there, if you're interested in ARC, we have an ARC server, an official Tick ARC server, and we're building something special there. You can go see the rules and everything that we're going to be doing there at community.ticgn.com. So go ahead over there and check it out if you're interested in joining our ARC server.
And don't forget, if you want to actually get in the server, you got to join the Discord chat, and they'll keep you up to date about the newest updates.
Cool. Yeah, man, it's definitely crazy with my backlog. So I'm definitely looking forward to playing some games when I get this Xbox One X. Hopefully, I can walk into a GameStop and pick one up, trading in my consoles to pick one up. I'll definitely be excited about that. Question. We'll see what happens on Monday though, because I got to go Monday evening and wait online like a scrub instead of just getting my console when it's supposed to drop. So listen, man, that's it for the show tonight. I want to thank everybody for stopping out. I truly appreciate the support, everybody in the chat. Make sure you please give us a thumbs up. We will not be doing a Q&A tonight, man. It's kind of late for me on my end, so I will definitely be trying to shoot one for next week. Make sure you check out Tick Podcast on iTunes for us. And you want to listen to us on your way to work. If you're at school, if you're just traveling, make sure you check us out on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher app or Podbean app under TIC Podcast as one word, TIC Podcast, and all our content will pop up. Over 147 episodes, including all of our interviews and all of our dev interviews. Basically, all our executive interviews, all our dev interviews, all of our E3 shows, all that stuff is on there, man. Plus our regular episodes, super pod shots, and so on and so forth. So make sure you check us out there. Go to TICGN.com. Please support us there as well. You know, your views mean a lot to us. Not so much that it helps us get paid in any type of way, because we don't have a lot of ads on the site, but we do appreciate the support. It helps our growth, and seeing those numbers mean a lot to us. So make sure you check us out. We put out a ton of reviews, a ton of news, and we're definitely appreciative of all the support in that aspect as well. And again, make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Iron Lord podcast with the squad. Lord Cognito, Lord Sav, Lord Attic, and Lord King at 11 a.m. on Sunday, and hang out with those guys as they get the chance to talk about what's going on in the industry and stuff like that. So that's it. We will be back next week at 10 p.m. or around 10-ish, shall I say, on the Tick Network channel. We once again thank you for tuning in. I am so appreciative of everybody stopping out and hanging out in the chat. Big shout out to guys like TF God and Alistine and Dizzy and everybody that stopped out. Really, really appreciate the support tonight. And that's it. So listen, I'm your host, KOR SKLL, the last son of Planet Xbox, where Anchorman V and B Money 101. The Trinity was back tonight. Very good to have B back, and God bless him and his family and everything going forward. Make sure you guys pray for B moms who's still recovering in the hospital, man. We wish B like that. And we're out of here. We'll see you guys next week. We're off this planet. Peace.